Hey there everyone, this is Captain Beefy with the Game Vault, and this is Captain's Log 052523. We're going to talk about the PlayStation Showcase that went on yesterday. I sat through it, watched it, I'll give you my thoughts on it and tell you what I'm looking forward to personally. So let's cue up the music and we'll get right to it. First and foremost, this was a big showcase. There was a lot to unpack here. If my numbers are correct, PlayStation showed us about 30 different games roughly that are coming out, a mixture of, regular games as well as some for the VR. I'll go over the highlights of what I am looking forward to most from this set of games. But they also talked about a couple other things like their Project Q, which is, I guess, a handheld device that will allow remote play from your PlayStation 5. That's something that is mildly interesting. Not to me, but I could see some people enjoying that. But for me, I don't know what the purpose would be. I mean, it's, now if it was a fully portable system that allowed you to play games on it away from your house, for instance, that might be a little bit of a different story. And they also announced some PlayStation earbuds, which were kind of cool looking, but I'm not an earbud guy, I'm more of a headphone guy, so there's that. There was also a trailer that we've all seen for the Gran Turismo movie, which is coming very, very soon, if I'm not mistaken. Looks kind of cool. It's what a weird concept. So it's a movie about a guy who played a game, and it allowed him to race professionally, I guess. It's like this weird, it's almost like the inception of video game movies, Because it's based on a true story about a kid who, I guess, won a contest or something and allowed him to drive a real race car. So it's kind of cool looking. I might see it just for the hell of it. I mean, I'm a huge Gran Turismo fan. I think it's such a great game, a lot of fun. I love the series from from day one, and just the concept of it's kind of neat, but I have a feeling it's either going to be pretty cool or a major cheese fest. I don't know. We'll have to see what comes up from there. Now, there were a lot of number 2s announced. We've got Helldivers 2, Ghost Runner 2, The Talos Principle 2, what else? Alan Wake 2, Dragon's Dogma 2, Arizona Sunshine 2, Destiny 2, The Final Shape, Spider-Man 2, tons and tons of 2s, which kind of cracked me up. There were so many sequels in this one, but some of the things that, there were a lot of games that were underwhelming, a lot of indies on there that are not my type of game. They might be a lot of fun, people may love them, but they just really didn't appeal to me, Cat Quest, Pirates of the Caribbean, the Plucky Squire, stuff like that, not my style. But hey, if you like that kind of game, great, check them out. I'm sure they're good for whatever they are. But what really caught my eye, and we're going to go over a few of them. One of the early ones that they showed was Ghost Runner 2. Now, I never played the original Ghost Runner, and that is my bad. I've got to play it. I've got it. I'll have to sit down and just give it a shot and see what it's all about. It was a cool looking game. The sequel looks pretty wild. In fact, it looks pretty awesome. One of the ones that's been rumored lately that a lot of people have been buzzing about is Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. So they're doing a full remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which was called Snake Eater, but they're not calling it 3, which I appreciate, because if they're going to start remaking those games in any way, shape, or form, then starting off with number 3 would be kind of silly. So starting off with Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, it's kind of just a teaser. It was pretty wild. But I'm very, very excited about that. I'm a big fan of the Metal Gear series, and I'm talking the original Metal Gear. I think it was on the regular NES. It might have been the Super NES, but I remember that game. I remember having a cartridge for that game, and, just going through the years with all these different iterations of Metal Gear was a lot of fun. It's a shame how it ended on a sour note with, Metal Gear Survivor and all that, but hopefully this will revitalize that franchise. Maybe it'll lead to more modern takes on some of these old games, new updated versions of them, or even better, brand new games that continue the story or just redo the story from the ground up. So that's something I was seriously looking forward to. We saw a lot from Final Fantasy 16. Now that's coming out very shortly, and that was no surprise to see footage from that and gameplay and all that. Again, I was around for the first Final Fantasy. I've played tons of them through the years. Now this is a series, and this is a game that I'm definitely not going to get it at launch. I have too much else going on around that time. Down the road, if it's on sale, I might pick it up and play through it. Final Fantasy games take a lot of dedication and time to get through, and I just won't be able to do that right now. So what's the point of spending full price right in the beginning when it comes out, So it looks fantastic. I was kind of soured on the Final Fantasy games after, I think it was 10 or something like that. I don't know. I kind of got away from them for a few years, and this might be a good place to jump back in. I do have a version of 7, and I've got 15. Both of those were like freebies through the PlayStation Plus stuff, but I've never really dedicated enough time to give them a chance and to see if that magic's still there. Sometimes as a gamer you outgrow games, and they just don't have the same appeal that they used to. And I'm afraid that's the way it's going to be with me in Final Fantasy, but we'll see. We'll see. I might try it out later on down the road. Now, Alan Wake 2, that looked pretty wild. Pretty short. Well, that was a pretty decent little trailer for it. Highly recommend checking it out. Look it up on YouTube. It looks fantastic. I'm a big horror game fan. If you haven't noticed, watching my channel, I love horror games, and Alan Wake 2 looks like it's going to just hit right where I want it, Another one that's already been announced, and we finally saw some footage from it, was Assassin's Creed Mirage. So Ubisoft, from my understanding, is going back to the old style of Assassin's Creed games with this, with much shorter games that aren't these big bloated open world games like the last 3 have been. Now, I like those games. I like those games a lot, but I also enjoy a good, tight game that you can get through in just a few, 20, 30 hours at the most. Not everything needs to hold me for 100+ hours and more. I mean, that's just... When you're playing games like that, you have to dedicate so much time to them that you miss out on tons of other stuff, So I'm looking forward to it. The graphics look good. The gameplay looks like a lot of fun. Playing as Basim will be neat. He was in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, so picking up that character and being able to use him will be a ton of fun. Of course, Street Fighter 6 has been announced for a while now. We got to see a lot of footage on that, and I remember playing the old Street Fighter 2 and all. I was never the hugest fan of Street Fighter. This is definitely a game I will be skipping, but I gotta give credit where credit's due. It looks pretty solid, and it looks different. It looks like this is going to be kind of a almost like a story-driven game where the old Street Fighters were just line up and fight, and then fight the next opponent, and fight the next opponent. So, and it looks like you're going to be able to build, maybe your own custom character. I don't know if there's going to be a couple modes to it. I haven't looked too deep into it yet, but one problem I have is like the characters from Street Fighter, the Ryus and all those guys, and Guile and Chun-Li, they all have these cool looks to them. They're just amazing looking and awesome. They look even better now than they ever have. But the guy, and I don't know if you're going to be able to customize your guy, create him from scratch and all that, but the main character they showed, the fella in the jacket and all, he just looks so plain and bland compared to him. So I'm hoping there's cosmetics in the game that you can progress through the game and get cosmetics, and that you'll be able to mess with the look of your character, the hair, the clothing and stuff like that to give him a more unique look, because this guy looks way out of his league. But maybe that's the point of the game. I don't know. Maybe you're just a normal schmo going up against these legendary fighters, and that's part of the fun. So we'll have to see what comes of that. Dragon's Dogma 2 looked interesting. Now, there was a lot of games that were announced that are kind of interesting looking, like Helldivers and Immortals of VM, I think it was called. But like Helldivers looked like a co-op game, your typical co-op game. I know the first one was a co-op twin stick shooter. Not really sure about the new one. Immortals of VM looks like a Forspoken type game. I mean, it has a unique kind of look to it, but it also has this generic look with this combination of magic and technology, and there's a little snarky talk during the trailer, and it looked kind of like, I don't know if I want that. And it seems like a lot of games are going that direction with that Marvel Cinematic Universe humor throughout it, and it can be fun from time to time, but, I don't know, there's just something about that game that rubbed me the wrong way. I'll have to watch it develop. I'll have to see what comes later on. Maybe they'll do a more extensive trailer or a gameplay reveal, or that gives you a little bit more meat. That might pique my interest a little bit more, but for now, it's kind of like on the back burner. Now, for VR had, 3 or 4 games announced? Maybe a little bit more. Arizona Sunshine 2, like a zombie fighting VR game, which looked kind of humorous, like Dead Island 2. I'd love Dead Island 2 in VR, but Arizona Sunshine 2 may be the answer to that. I don't know. I'm not really sold on the VR, but still, I've got a few games that use it, and it can be fun. It's kind of gimmicky, and it's not something like I can sit down and play a game for hours and a night. If I've got nothing going on that night, I can film several hours worth of footage and put out 5 or 6 videos for a week. No problem. I can't do that with VR. It's too much. It's taxing. And by taxing, it's like mentally taxing, having this thing strapped to your head, the constant visual bombardment and all that. There is a little, I don't really suffer from vertigo or I don't get sick from it at all, but it's still, it's a different experience than just sitting there with the big screen TV and the controller chilling out and playing. So, again, I don't know if I could sit there and smash zombies. Like, I could probably play Dead Island 2 for 12 hours straight if I had the opportunity. I highly doubt I could do that with the Arizona Sunshine 2. But I did see a really fun game that I enjoyed very much getting a VR mode, and that is Resident Evil 4. The remake is getting a virtual reality mode. So, wow. Yeah, that's going to give me a heart attack, but hey. So, that game was so much fun. I played through it a couple times. I imagine a VR mode will make you start over, which is cool. Definitely something I'll try out when it comes out. I imagine it'll be a free mode, a free upgrade like it was for Resident Evil 8. I believe it was for 8, right? Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm looking forward to that one in VR. You got Beat Saber coming, Crossfire Sierra Squad, which looked, I think that was kind of like looked like a FPS type game, or was that the one that was kind of, and then there was Synapse, and there's a couple of them. And the fact that I can't tell them apart tells you what I feel about them. I don't know what I'm looking for with VR, but I haven't found it yet. The closest I've found is probably Gran Turismo 7, because it's just so immersive sitting in that car and driving. That's a lot of fun. The Horizon, the Call of the Wild is okay. It's okay. The No Man's Sky was fun in it in some ways, but in other ways it's a little agitating, and irritating. It's like, so I don't know. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, there was a couple of them. So, VR sales have exceeded the original VR. The PSVR 2 has outsold the PSVR 1 by, I think they said 8% roughly during the same time period. They sold, I think, 600,000 units in the same time period that they measured it, which was 8% more than the VR1 sold. So I remember a few weeks back, they were saying that the sales were abysmal and all that. It's doing well, but again, it's a niche market, and it's something that we're not going to see a ton of games for. And I'd rather see smaller companies and smaller studios developing these games than having big AAA studios working on them and putting a lot of resources into them, because only a small portion of the gaming community is going to be able to use them. Not everybody's got a VR compared to how many people have a PS5, for instance. So, I'm cool with these smaller games doing it, like Beat Saber and all that. I think that's just a port coming over. And they said something about a Queen music pack, so there's that, I guess Destiny 2 is getting an update called The Final Shape. So there were a couple games that were that Japanimation style, that anime style to them. Those games really don't appeal to me too much, but they're in there. They look, I'm sure they're fun for whoever wants to try them out. There was another multiplayer, looked like a 4-player co-op or PvP called Foam Stars, which I think Square Enix put that one out. It just looks goofy. I'm sorry, not my type of thing. Another Five Nights at Freddy Help 1 and 2 coming out. I don't get those games. That's not something I ever played. My girlfriend's son loves them. He's like 11 years old. I never got them. I don't understand them. It's not something I played. So, what can I say about that? But I'll tell you one that I looked at that looked very interesting was Sword of the Sea. And if I'm not mistaken, it's by the same company that made Abzu and Journey. And my girlfriend's playing through Journey. Journey's a beautiful game. It's so cool looking. Abzu, I played a little bit. Had a lot of fun with it. Not something that really caught me completely to where I got into it, but neat looking games. There's a lot of neat looking stuff out there. It looks like there's a wide variety for people of all kinds of tastes, whether you like fighting games, RPGs, action, FPS, co-op, single player. You're going to be covered by something in this showcase. So overall, I would say, it's a middle of the road showcase. It didn't really knock my socks off. It didn't hit me with anything that really shocked me and that I found to be spectacular. The high points again were Metal Gear Solid and the Alan Wake 2. Those both looked great. And then at the end, they were wrapping things up and they showcased one last game. And this is a game we all know is coming out. We all know it's coming out this year. And that's Spider-Man 2.
You grow slow in your old age, Sergei. A fate you will not share. I've been in your shadow for hours, but you sense nothing. Pathetic.
And we got to see man, it looks good. It looks so good. Looks like Kraven the Hunter is going to be the main antagonist in this game. And we got to see some footage of him. We got to see some footage of the Lizard. We got to see Spider-Man and, Miles Morales. We got to see Parker and Morales playing. We got to see how the mechanic works, switching between them. It looks like they do it via, one calling the other via cell phone. Like, hey, I can't get there in time. Hey, Miles, can you get to it? Yeah, I'm close. Go. Boom. So you switch to his perspective and you switch back. It's not a co-op game. I know a lot of people were talking online that it should be co-op, and quite frankly, I wouldn't want that game to be co-op. Let single-player games be single-player games. Not everything needs to be co-op, Co-op just brings a whole different feel to a game. I think a game like that is perfect as it is, but it looks absolutely fantastic, and Spider-Man's evolved. He's got the symbiote powers to it. We didn't see anything from Venom in the showcase, but we did see Spider-Man using his black suit and using those symbiote powers. So yeah, that was pretty sweet looking. Let me know what you guys thought of the presentation. If you watched the showcase at all, tell me what games you're really looking forward to, what caught your eye, what you were hoping to see but didn't see. Wolverine. There's one there. I would have loved to have seen something from that, but that's okay. It's probably still out there for a while, and we're going to have to wait. But yeah, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the showcase overall. Did you think it was a great one, a good, a decent one, or was it absolute crap? I'd be happy to hear what you say and talk to you about it. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you next time. Until then, peace.